Welcome to the Founderz Lounge, where business meets bullshit and everything in between. Guys, what's up? Welcome back to the Founderz Lounge. Today we have a very cool guest. I've been waiting to talk to her for a while on the show. If you've heard Yvonne and I's story in the past, she always talks about somebody that we met at an Honor Classic one year who probably is the sole reason we moved to Wilmington, Miss Jen Hendershott. How are you?
Hey, Jen.
How are you guys?
Good. So, Jen, thanks again for taking the time today. I know you and Brian are very busy, and I appreciate you doing this with us. This one is going to have a little bit of a different meaning for me, just because of our history, our friendship. But I wanted to get you on the show and one, talk about your past and in the fitness space, but also more importantly, the businesses that you and Brian have built, which is going to go along with the show. I think you guys have your entrepreneurial spirit is incredible. You guys have done some amazing things. So, but I guess let's start out by, there's a lot of our listeners know who you are, but a lot of them don't either. So let's start with your background and tell us a little bit about that.
I mean, I'm just a girl from a small town in northeastern Ohio. I'm from this little tiny town that you wonder if it's even on the map. But yeah, I started early in dance here, went on to Ohio State, go Bucks, to be a college cheerleader, college dance team member, and then I fell into fitness and around age 25, and I did it for about 13 years consistently, winning two fitness Olympias and two fitness internationals, and then building, like you said, a couple businesses, and just kind of blossomed from there. I've taken a lot of what I've learned and carried it into my later life, into my 50s, and here we are sitting on your podcast talking about it.
And by the way, congrats on your win over the younger Manning. Your Buckeyes.
Thank you. Yes,
Yeah.
she's a little overrated. A little.
Well, you guys might be
He
underrated because
looked
they looked
terrible.
good too. Oh, he looked terrible, and Ohio State looked like Ohio State. So
Typical Ohio State. Yeah.
yeah.
So you talked about being, a cheerleader in dance in high school and college. What was the like? Talk about getting into the fitness space. I know that like that whole sport. We can go on for days. That's probably a whole nother topic. That whole sport's changed and evolved with social media and technology. But the fitness space that you were in was almost kind of taboo when you were doing it. Not too many girls were doing that.
I tell people all the time, I think I came into the industry at the right time. It was when there was only like women's bodybuilding, men's bodybuilding, and women's fitness. There was no figure, no bikini, no physique. So I came out of college with a lot of energy, a lot of talent, very eager to continue my physical ability. And so I was approached to try fitness. And growing up around the Columbus, Ohio area, it was pretty easy for me because it was like in my backyard. And then I basically took a leap of faith and thought, well, what do I have to do? And someone said, you got to eat a really strict diet and lift weights. I'm like, okay, can't be too hard. So we'll try it. And I think the first week I did it, I fell in love and was like, oh shit, this is really for me. Like I can compete by myself. I don't have to worry about someone else on the team screwing up. I can just do what I'm told, and I just show up and be disciplined and hardworking. And so that's easy for me. And so it just kind of fell in at the right time in my life, and I fell in the industry at the right time.
I think the one thing that was always fascinating to me, especially when Yvonne and I were competing, the women's fitness it was going well, and there was a lot of girls doing it then. But the girls that did that, they had to have the discipline of a bodybuilder, but also had to have the whole other skill of putting on a fitness routine at the same time.
Yeah.
That to me was like it always blew me away.
Well, Don, you're forgetting something. Fitness has evolved, like, in my opinion, backwards. Because when I was competing, there were two routines and two physique rounds. And it was everything was 25%. And now it's changed dramatically where there's only physique and one routine. So I think my generation of fitness people was very more difficult and more challenging than it is today.
That's crazy to think about.
How it's
Yeah.
evolved into. It's so siloed up.
So if you had to say it, this might be a cheesy question, but what's one of the biggest lessons you learned from competing at a high level like that?
Honestly, if I would have done everything that people told me to do to change about my physique and my routine, I would not be a former Miss Olympia and a Miss International. I would have chased every word people said. And so I took with me to this day, opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one. And I just stayed true to myself. I just kept remembering I was this girl from a small Midwestern town in Ohio. And I knew that my parents were always watching me and they raised me to be a solid individual. And I needed to be loyal to them. And so I could have changed who I was a million times, and I chose to not do that. And I came out on top. And for that, I am grateful. And it is by far the biggest lesson.
That's awesome.
I love it, man. There's just so many parallels to business and personal growth that you
Yeah.
said just in that nutshell of a statement.
So before we kind of get into your transition out and into the business space, I'll tell the condensed version of the story.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure Yvonne's going to have you on her podcast and she'll get into the weeds on it. But the way that Yvonne and I met Jen was when we were, I think it might have been Yvonne and I's maybe third show together. We were dieting for it, and we were bored on a weekend, and we drove to the Arnold Classic Expo. I don't think we could even afford the tickets to go to like one of the competitions. We just went to the expo because it was like $10, maybe. And we're walking around this expo, and whether or not we were dieting correctly or not, but we were so inebriated. We're walking around with our little food bags, and we look like skeletons, and we're wearing these Local Cafe T-shirts. And Yvonne spotted Jen in her booth, and just kind of like beeline there. And then we kind of interacted with you and had a conversation, and you were gracious enough to stand there and talk to us and ask us about our business and what we were doing, and we were getting ready to move to Florida. Like that, we had our mind made up. That's where we were going.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jen was like, "Don't do that. Don't do that. Go to Wilmington, North Carolina." And we looked at each other and we're like, "Where the fuck is Wilmington, North Carolina?"
Why Wilmington?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I had to pull my phone out. I don't know if you remember that, but I had to pull my phone out inside. I'm like, "Where the fuck is Wilmington, North Carolina?" I didn't know where it was.
It's almost like a joke. Yeah, go
And
to
then
Wilmington.
we didn't listen, so we went back home, and I think it was a few weeks later. We took the girls on a vacation down to Florida. We went to Fort Myers. We drove all over that damn state looking for real estate. The girls were miserable because we're dragging them around in our minivan. And they're like, "What are we doing?" But I mean, we never found anything, and we went back to the Arnold the next year. Ran into Jen again at her booth, and she was like, "Hey, how's it going?" Blah blah blah. And I think you asked us how our Florida trip went or something, and we were like miserable, and you just kept talking about Wilmington. And a few weeks after that show, I found a cafe on Craigslist, which was the Racine Cafe. And I'm like, "Holy shit, that's in Wilmington. Let's go check it out." It was on Labor Day. And so we closed the restaurant down, drove all the way to Wilmington. And the minute we pulled in the parking lot, we're like, "This is it. We're taking it." And we bought it on the spot. So
what was it about, not to get too far off here, Jen, what was it about Wilmington that prompted you to be like, "No, you got to go there, guys"? Was there some connection or something, or?
Well, I lived there part-time.
Okay. That
So
makes
it's a
sense.
little biased.
Yeah.
And my brother, John, actually also played a part in that because he was building a home there, and I had bought a second home on the same street as him. And we saw a very healthy fitness growing community in Wilmington. And it just seemed like the right spot for John and Yvonne and the right time. I think my brother saw that, and I think I saw that. And when you see a community of health and wellness growing, you want to bring as many people together and make it even bigger. And so
Right.
I think that's kind of why we kind of push that.
It was awesome.
Well
I
worked
mean,
out.
Yeah, it did.
and that time frame around 2012, 2013, that community, like she said, was growing so fast here. It was growing, but at the same time, it was so tight knit. It was very small at the same time, if
Right.
that makes sense. It was a
No,
very
yeah.
small group of
Yeah.
people who were so loyal and dedicated to each other in a certain aspect. You know, like you could go to a local show here in North Carolina, there'd be 25 competitors. They're all from Wilmington. And so, like, we'd all be backstage hanging out, knowing everybody. It was a fun time, man. It really was. All right. Well, so you got out of competing. When was the last year that you competed, you think?
Uh, I want to say I just wrote about this in my book. It was the 2008 Olympia I won, and then the 2009 Fitness International I won. And then I left my heels on stage. I didn't
Oh,
want to
that's
be
cool.
Tom Brady.
That's
I
awesome.
didn't
That's
want
That's
to
an
be one
awesome
of
way
those
to.
pompous, narcissist athletes. It's like, oh, I can't stop playing. I wanted to leave on my terms. And to be honest with you, I knew that there was going to be faster, prettier, younger, fitter, energetic girls behind me wanting my spot. And I was not wrong about that. And so, it was a good time for me to just say, hey, I'm ready to move on. I was just starting to get a sour taste in my mouth with the industry, learning more and more about what goes on behind the scenes. And I just didn't want to leave that way. And so I just thought, I'm 38 years old. What do I have to win? There's nothing left to win. There's nothing else to prove. So I'm just gonna win and walk. And that's what I did.
Win and walk. There you go. That's a
Yeah,
great shirt. Do you have that copyrighted, or can we use that for one of our shirts? That's,
not
Jen, you're
yet.
onto something. Yeah, there you go.
Was there ever a time? I know you said you knew that there was going to be younger girls coming up, but was there ever a time right around the end where you looked around at the people that you were competing with on stage and you just thought, this is it? Like, I'm never going to beat these people, or I'm never, like, I think I'm at the peak of my genetical potential.
Never. I
See, it was
never
different.
felt like that.
It was different for me. That's exactly why I got out. So I think in 2014 was the last show I ever did. It was the North Americans, and I was in the master's class. And when they called my class and I stood up, I knew right then, and I get goosebumps telling this story, but I looked right at Yvonne. Yvonne was standing right outside when I was lining up, and I just had this look on my face. And she told me after I got off the stage, she goes, I knew this was the last time you were ever going to do this. I could tell by the look on your face. And I wound up beating one guy in a pro qualifier, so I was pretty proud of that.
Yeah.
But I got my ass handed to me. So,
Well, so Don, let me tell you this. There's a second answer to this question. Um, Around the time I was at the end of my career, my dad his health was failing. And I talk a lot about this because I feel like life is short, and when you have parents, elder parents, and you're seeing them age and whatnot, it's important to pay attention. And I do believe there's life beyond bodybuilding and fitness.
absolutely.
And that around that time, I thought, I had just won both shows. I had nothing else to prove. And my dad's health was declining. I just felt like my heart and I will say this, my heart was telling me, go be with your dad. But my ego was saying, no, stay, keep competing. Everyone says you're at the top of your game. You just keep winning, you know, fighting for the next show and beat your body up more and more. And to be honest with you, it was a pastor from my church who said, I was looking for the right answer. And he said to me, Jen, follow your heart, not your ego. And it was that quote that helped me
That's
make that
great.
decision that day and change my life. And I
That's
left the
awesome.
sport, spent the next 3 years with my dad until he passed, and I will never, ever regret that.
And for me to hear you talk about that, and you said something at the beginning that I just keep thinking through as we're talking. The reason you got into bodybuilding was because you could control on your terms it was you were the playing field, right? You don't
Right.
have to worry about someone letting you down. You said, and we're not at this part of the interview yet, but I got to jump to because everything you're saying about heart versus ego or them working together to get you through those competitions, but also to realize when it's time to say, I've got a life beyond this. How hard is it when you start your business? I mean, you're a very successful business person to start letting go of control because you've been in a situation up until then where you were the sole person, right? How hard is, I mean, that's probably a question for both of you guys, but uh, that mindset and change of habit fascinates me with people that were in the bodybuilding or any industry or athletic situation where you're competing basically against yourself. Was it hard to let go of total control to start a business?
I was already building the business while I was competing. Um, so for me, it was more of a transition. I was going from competing, which is what fed my business. Being on stage is what fed it.
Yeah.
And then going into the business world afterwards, I knew that I was going to continue a few more years after my fitness career was over. And then I had planned on maybe selling it, which is exactly what I did. So I had a plan, and I'm a big planner. Like I can tell you where I'm going to be a year from right now on this day at this like
Type
I'm
A.
very organized, I'm very planned, and so I tend to do that with my own life and my own career and um my own just my own agenda. Like I know what I'm going to do. I know what I set out to do. If I say I'm going to do something, I do it, and I just I don't back out from it, and I might get distracted, but uh I don't give up on it. You know what I mean? So for me, it was a little bit different. It was more of a transition than
Right.
a on and off switch.
So was it the fat camps? Was that the first business you kind of started developing while you were transitioning out?
Yeah, it was a combination. I had started Fat Camp, which was seminars for women all over the world where I'd go into the gyms, and I'd stand and I would educate, motivate, um, basically console a lot of them and hear their stories and their struggles, whether it was health and wellness or it had to do with relationships or families or workplaces. And I would spend 20 to 25 weekends a year doing that. And I did that for a good 10 years. And so that business was booming. And when I was in my 30s, and then I had a second business where I was doing online training. And this is before Instagram, Facebook,
Oh yeah.
my,
Right.
we, TikTok, we didn't have any of those things. I was using Google Docs,
Cool.
right? Google Docs. I have to think about this. And MySpace just came out. And I
MySpace.
was like, oh, this is so cool. I can like promote myself on MySpace. And it
Yeah, I
was just
remember.
a weird time. I mean, so I was building a business basically through emails and putting stamps on envelopes and mailing shit in the mail.
It's
That's how I
crazy
built
to
my
think.
business.
It's crazy to think that that's how we started. All, I mean,
Yeah.
using mailers, direct mail campaigns, and
Yeah, now you've got apps, and it's probably a lot of them are probably using AI now. They're probably not even writing
yeah,
the programs themselves anymore. That's
yeah.
crazy to think in just a short window of time. It's
Mm.
crazy. Um, so from fat camps, um, the supplement industry. Talk about getting into that. That's always been intriguing to me.
So with the fat camps, I also had a business of online training. And then Ryan, my husband, so I'll give you the very long story short. I had a sponsor in 2004 that was called Bulk Nutrition. And this guy, Mike, was the owner of the company, and he had endorsed me to represent his brand. And he was an online supplement company. So it was way before Amazon, where you would order protein powder and have it shipped right to your door. And so it was a really small company out of North Carolina, and he had signed me to help promote his company. And in the transition of going through all that and working with him, he said to me at the Arnold Classic one year, he said, my mom's going to retire. I really need to find an accountant. My business is exploding, blah, blah, blah. And I said, oh, did you know that my husband is an accountant and he's actually looking for a job right now? And he's like, really? So he meets Brian and they start talking. And I think like 3 months later, Brian's moving to North Carolina to work for this guy. And
Nice.
this company ended up transitioning off and selling super small. And then they used that money to build Scivation. And Brian and Mike together built that business, I don't know, over the next like 15 years and built it to the point that it was just incredible. And they had the top branched chain amino acid in the world, basically, and that was Extend. XTEND,
Yep.
BCAA.
I used it for years. Here's a funny true fact. I think, don't quote me on this, I will go home and look when I get home. I still have one of the old green bulk nutrition duffel bags. Still have one.
Time to go shopping, Don.
That's brand loyalty, is what that is.
It's like a neon green and black.
Mhm.
That's awesome.
Hey, Don, just so you know, this is not vodka. This is Extend.
Well, this is. So, cheers.
Cheers.
Hmm.
So from Scivation, after that, I think you guys launch a keto brand and a few other small brands like that?
Yeah, so then we had Prima Force for a while, and then F Bomb. We've sold a couple of those smaller companies, and then started a Keto Logic, and that was around the 2018, 2017. And then, of course, it was growing, and keto was a thing, and then 2020 COVID hit. And guess what happened during COVID? Nobody got fit.
Right.
Everyone got fat. And so that business really kind of tanked. And it definitely was a challenge for my husband and their partners because we've done so well at like building brands and selling them and being in the supplement industry and being loyal to them. And then, you get something like a pandemic come along and destroys the world basically. And you get kicked kind of like right in the nuts. And what do
Yeah.
you do? It's part of entrepreneurship, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I've got a question here, and I might fumble it a little bit on you, but you were talking about trying to build a business the old school way, like your online training. And I know a big thing now. It's a whole different world now. But did you have any thoughts or talk about trying to build like a personal brand, moving from competing into the business space? Was that even a thought, or like were you trying to wrap your head around, how do I say this? I guess basically capitalizing on the success that you had in competition
Yeah.
and leveraging that to build a business.
To be honest with you, Don, no. I mean, when I was done and I sold Fat Camp and retired from competing, I just needed a break. I was really burnt out. I was training over 100 clients a week online. I was working 25 weekends a year. I didn't want to see a sparkly suit or an egg white for about 10
Or a piece of tilapia.
or a piece of white fish. I tell you what. And then I just, again, like I said, I spent a lot of time focusing on my family, um, focusing on my family. Sorry, I
No,
lost
you're
you.
good. Can you still hear us?
Um, I think so.
Might just be some lag.
There you I just spent a lot of time focusing on my family and then Brian, helping Brian build his career to sell his business with Scivation. And then here I am now, 15 years later, and now I'm trying to rebrand myself a little bit been trying to come back out and really step up and help people. I spent the last 5 years being a freedom fighter, as you know,
Mm,
fighting for our country's freedoms and helping fight people with their vaccine mandates and basically just helping people get out of the COVID crash because so
yeah.
many people got so depressed and so overweight during COVID. And so I've spent the last 5 years just kind of working with people online and spending a lot of time counseling people online. And so I've been doing a lot of that. And I've been doing a lot of charity work and a lot of God's work, to be honest with you. And so now I'm writing a book. So now I'm back on focusing on what you're asking me about. And that is about my career and some of my ups and downs and some of my challenges. And now I want to share my story because I'm comfortable and I'm in a space where I'm kind of like, I'm okay. Let's do this.
Yeah, I get it totally. Um, how have you seen the landscape change for women entrepreneurs coming from the same kind of path or road that you took? Right. I mean, yours is very unique, very, very authentic. But now I've noticed it change. Obviously, the world changes, right? Technology changes, but how have you seen that landscape change versus the way that you did it? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I understand. To be honest with you, I cannot believe how different it is from 15, 20 years ago. Um, I find it interesting watching the internet because everybody is a professional at
Everybody's an expert
fitness.
in professional expert.
Everybody knows the right diet. Everybody knows
Yeah.
the right training technique. Everybody knows exactly what you should be doing. And I think that's all bullshit
Right.
Yep.
because unless you have walked the walk, you should not talk the talk. That's my
Right.
opinion. So I find it incredibly interesting. I know there's a lot of women out there that, God bless them, they're doing whatever they got to do to, spread the message of health and wellness. I'm okay with that because I feel like the more people talking about getting fit, the more people are getting fit. So I'm okay with that. But to go on and say you know more than somebody like me, for example,
Mm.
that's a little bullshit, to be honest with you.
I think that's why a lot of people got out. A lot of people from that time frame. Once Instagram, Facebook showed their face,
Yeah. It's
a lot of them were done.
we were
And
just
I've
talking.
always said some of the best bodybuilders in the world never competed. Some of the best genetic freaks never stood on stage because they didn't want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
They
We were.
just involved. They enjoyed the process. The process was their passion. They could give a shit less about the notoriety, standing on stage, doing that whole monkey show. They were just bodybuilders at heart.
And Jen, I love hearing you two talk about it. I wasn't a part of that world, clearly. But your journey happened with grit. You're a badass. You push, but it was also organic. Like you just kind of found through your determination, found your way to these next levels of your passion. As we're like, you can force authentic or fake authenticity now. Like you're not present on the stage. You're present on Instagram, telling people how to do things that you've never met. Not you, but like you're saying, like you guys, the new gen. I sound like an old man, but it's just so much easier to put a polish on these days because of access to everybody. Versus you did the time on the stage, like those folks weren't in the room with you. So that as a business owner, though I never competed like that. That is what I think we can all resonate with. Is like, I've done the time, and yes, I mean, in my own world, there's all these marketing wizards that tell you everything you're going to want to hear and how it's going to. If that was the case, we'd all be billionaires. It's just not true. But it's
Bingo.
easy to fake right now because you can get in front of everybody. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
We were how do I explain this? So when Mike had his last show here in Wilmington, not too long ago, a couple months ago. Technically, I don't think Mike's the promoter anymore. I think it's somebody else, but it's the local Wilmington show here. I was off to the side talking to Mike and a couple other guys who we've known for years, and we were talking about participation rates and how low, the amount of people signing up to do these local shows are now. And I said, man, I have my opinion, And I'll tell you, but I'm not going to sugarcoat it. And they were like, they kind of like stepped back, got nervous. And I go, it's fucking Instagram, dude. Like social media killed this. It's dead. And the reason is because they don't have to come into shape anymore. They don't have to show up at these local shows in shape the way we did before we had access to all of this. So now these male physique competitors, any asshole with a board shorts and a six pack
Right.
can be a competitor online. They're going to get clicks. They're going to get endorsements. They're going to get sponsors. They're going to get, whatever. That's what killed it.
And that is your new audience if you're in the protein or the the supplement space, and like trying to serve that audience, but also realizing what it took to give them that opportunity has got to be bittersweet. It's got to be a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah, I mean, like women, for example,
Right, yeah.
like Yvonne used to see Jenn in magazines. Like that was the thing, right? We had magazines, and so that was the goal. You wanted to be in the magazines, or that you were chasing that, and there was a certain nostalgia to it, and that nostalgia is not there anymore.
And Jen, everything that got you here was earned. So whether it was publicity or coming out on top, and I think that's the thing we struggle with as business owners is like the earned side is getting less and the force side is getting more. Like it's so much easier, but is it killing the soul of something that was pretty special to achieve back then?
So I have a great story for you guys.
Yeah.
You made me think of something. When I first started competing in 1997, the way I got sponsors was writing a letter, and I would go literally like door to door with this letter, and I'd say, I'm an aspiring fitness competitor, and I'm looking for a $300 donation to help me compete,
That's
to pay
amazing.
for my suit, my shoes, my supplement. I was in the process of graduating from Ohio State. And if you donate, I'll put your logo on my jacket.
For $300.
Hey, that's
And,
hustle.
and you know what? I I did really well. I had a jacket full of sponsors on both
Sleeves.
sides,
Yeah.
and that's what helped me the first year get everything I needed. I mean, when Brian and I started dating my first year of competing, he was making $32,000 a year, and I was $100,000 in debt from college. And so what was I going to do? I mean, I wanted to compete, but I didn't have the money, and neither did Brian. We were just like, well, we're going to figure out a way. And I'm like, I'm going to hustle. I'm going to get the sponsors, and I'm going to get the money, and we're going to do this. And I did. So it was a lot harder in 1997 than it is in 2025 for sure.
Nah, dude, that's awesome.
It is awesome. And I think, Jen, would you say that's what also developed you out as a business person was like it wasn't just about the product, which is you on a stage showing all the work. It's about you positioning that, right? Like what advice would you give in this new era for folks that want to be at the top of their game? I mean, everything's changed. The landscape of promotions has changed, but
I can't take total all the credit for this. I have to give some of the credit to Monica Brandt, my my good old friend Monica Brandt, because I remember thinking exactly how these kids today are thinking, make a reel, make a workout, I'll get followers, I'll get clients. That's the way I used to think right at the very beginning. And Monica Brandt came up to me in in 2000 at the Olympia in Las Vegas. She walked up to me and I was in line at the buffet because the show was over. She came up to me and she said, Jen, you're amazing. She's like, you are going to go big places in this industry. But let me tell you something. You have to be different. You have to figure out a way to make a living because you're not going to make a living winning shows. And I thought, what? And so, to be honest with you, it was that conversation that stuck with me. And I went home and I was already a teacher. I had graduated from Ohio State with a teaching degree. I was going to teach elementary and middle school. And I thought to myself, why don't I take all my education I just paid ridiculous amount of money for. And I take my fitness experience, I tie it together, and I create this thing called At Camp, where it's seminars. I can go out and teach people and just be myself. And it was that niche that nobody else in the industry had at the time. And of course, my personality is bigger than life. And so I had that on top of everything to just kind of carry in my backpack and take with me in those years to come as my business was building. So for me, I found a unique niche. And that's something I would say to people today. Like, you can't just be yourself. You can't just do a workout. I mean, you've got to be unique. You got to get people to want to trust you. And I think then the followers will come.
That's good shit.
It's great shit. It's great advice. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's a tough market because it's so saturated. But yeah, finding that difference and making it real.
Yeah. Agreed.
Well, before we wrap this up, Jen, I want to do some kind of rapid fire questions. Steve and I have fun with this on another segment of different style of show that we do. So I thought it'd be pretty cool to do it with you, only because I know you so well and I know that this might be kind of fun. But what's one business mistake that you're glad that you and Brian made? Like, looking back, if you could think of one mistake you made and you're like, I'm glad we fucked that up.
Oh, wait, ask me again.
One business mistake that you're glad you made.
One business mistake glad we made. Ask me another question.
Another question.
Oh,
Okay.
I don't think that's ever happened.
Yeah.
All right, keep moving.
So what do you think is your driving force now, your legacy, impact? Like, what do you think, if you had to say what is that now, what drives that?
What drives that is that I can and I will, and I why not?
Simple answer.
Yeah, I was actually going to rephrase the first question because I think maybe you'll get us some insight on a mistake you made where you learned from it in business.
Oh, that's better. Okay.
Well, I'm just rephrasing it.
I
just got a filthy mouth. Sorry.
I would say trusting too many people. Too many of the wrong people, which you don't know they're the wrong people until you realize they're the wrong people.
Yeah, that's a good one. You think your radars go up as you grow through business as to how to at least determine that a little quicker, right?
Yeah, and you hire more attorneys.
Yeah, your bullshit meter definitely improves.
Right, yeah.
Well, Jen, thank you again. This was awesome. I can't thank you enough for taking the time to be on here and sharing.
Yeah, Jen, you're everything that was promised.
Oh, thank you.
You killed it, sister. Yeah, again, it's always interesting for me because I wasn't in that world with you guys. But I like when Dawn brings in folks from that side because you hear similarities in their drive in that world as well as their drive in their business. There are personality traits. A lot of them are type A that you can see why they got into business and vice versa. Like, it's just how you're wired. So it's very cool for everyone to hear that.
Yeah, I like to think I'm a little different in a lot of ways because I have a true empathy for people, and so I find a lot of satisfaction in helping people. And so I know that if I'm successful, other people will be successful, and if other people are successful, it's because I believed in them, and I think that's really important.
Yeah, you definitely have a teacher's heart. You can hear that through and through. So,
thanks.
Doesn't get much realer than that. Jen, thank you again.
Thanks, Jen.
I appreciate
you guys. Thanks so much.
Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Till next time.